I used to believe that silence in marriage was the most terrifying thing until I learned that words spoken without shame, without hesitation, can cut far deeper. She was leaning against the kitchen counter, arms folded, wearing that now familiar look I'd started noticing more often, a mix of contempt and indifference. We had just finished arguing. Honestly, I couldn't even remember how it started, probably something about the growing distance between us, why she seemed constantly irritated, or why I felt like I was living with someone I barely knew anymore. Then she said it, flat, emotionless. If you want that again, it's going to cost you. At first, I thought I'd misheard. I stared at her, waiting for a grin, a sarcastic laugh, some indication that she was kidding, but her face didn't change. She didn't flinch. She went on. I've given more than I've gotten in this marriage. You've had my body, my time, my energy. I've earned the right to ask for something in return. I'm not giving myself away for free anymore. It wasn't anger that silenced me. It was a calm, transactional tone she used, like she was laying out terms for a deal. She couldn't even see how devastating that was. She poured herself a glass of wine, like she hadn't just hollowed out the very foundation of our relationship, sat down, scrolled through her phone like this was normal now. I left the room, not in a fury, but in something quieter, something final. Something inside me shifted, not with a bang, but with the soft click of a door closing in the back of my mind. Whatever part of me had still been trying to fix this, to hold it together, stood up and walked away. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to her while she slept peacefully, like nothing had happened. I stared at the ceiling, my mind replaying the years, every birthday I planned, every leaky faucet I fixed, every time I rubbed her back when she was sick, supported her when she lost jobs, stood by her when her mother got cancer, and yet none of it seemed to matter now. Now I apparently owed her, emotionally, physically, even sexually. How did we end up here? I kept asking myself. But as I thought about it, the truth emerged. She hadn't suddenly changed. She'd been moving this way for a long time. I just hadn't noticed. The next morning over coffee, she didn't say a word about the night before. Just scrolled through her shopping app, sipping slowly. Her cart was full. Heels, jewelry, a designer coat. Over $1,300 worth. Then she looked up and asked, "Can you transfer me a few hundred this week? I need to pick up a few things." I didn't answer, not because I was confused, but because I finally saw it clearly. This wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a contract I never agreed to. Later that day, while I was at work, I got an email notification. Invoice received from Sasha. Emotional labor and lost time. $2,000. I thought it had to be a joke. But it wasn't. The attached note read, "Since you don't understand my value, I figured I'd start billing you for it. Fair is fair." I laughed. Quietly, bitterly. Not because it was funny, but because the quiet switch in my mind from the night before had just flipped for good. If she wanted to put a price on love, affection, connection, fine. But she was about to find out I don't pay for respect. Not in my own home. And I was done begging for what should have been mutual all along. I didn't respond to the invoice. I didn't argue. I just left it hanging, like so much else in our relationship. Hollow gestures pretending to mean something. And then I stopped. Stopped doing all the little things she never thanked me for. Car maintenance, bill reminders, coffee in bed. I didn't slam on the brakes. I just let go of the wheel. Let the momentum die on its own. I watched her that week. Really watched her. The way she left dishes in the sink until they reeked. The way she ordered delivery night after night. And called productive. How she labeled me controlling any time I asked about her finances, but had no issue asking for my car when hers maxed out. One morning, I caught her giggling at her phone. She didn't see me behind her in the hallway. I leaned in just enough to see the screen. She was texting someone named Derek. It wasn't scandalous, not outright, but it was flirty. Too flirty. Still, I didn't react. Just stored it away. Later that day, she sent me a voice memo. "Hey, babe, been thinking. Since I've been handling the emotional side of the relationship so long, maybe it's time we rebalance. Like a monthly appreciation stipend or something." An appreciation stipend. I played it twice. Not because I doubted what I'd heard, but because I wanted to hear the confidence in her voice, the self-satisfaction. That night, I pretended to be too tired for dinner. She didn't care. Ordered sushi for herself, posted online with a caption, "Date night with the best company. Me, nail polish, and mood lighting." The next day, I quietly moved some funds out of our joint account into a private one, just enough to soften the blow when things eventually fell apart. The day after that, I reached out to Andrew, a lawyer I trusted. Nothing official, just early conversations. He'd helped men in my position before. Then came the moment that confirmed it all. Saturday morning. She thought I was out running errands. I'd actually parked a block away and walked back to the house to grab some work documents. But as I opened the door, I heard voices upstairs. Hers and a man's. "You really think he suspects anything?" the man asked, amused. She laughed, the same carefree giggle I'd heard in the voice memo. "Oh, he suspects, but he won't do anything. That's the beauty of it." My heart didn't race. I didn't freeze. I just listened. "What if he finds out about the fund?" the guy asked. She scoffed. "Let him. Half of it's in my name. He's too passive to touch it. The fund. My fund. The one I built for the lake cabin we used to dream about." That was when it hit me. She wasn't waiting to leave. She was cashing in while staying, and I was just a fool footing the bill. I walked out before they saw me. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just drove straight to Andrew's office to take the next step. Quiet, controlled. That night, she asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I smiled. "Not tonight. Got a few things to handle." She smirked like she'd won, but I was already halfway out the door in my mind, packing the kind of bag she'd never see. I've always believed silence can be a weapon. Used right, it slices deeper than shouting ever could. After I left Andrew's office, I didn't go home immediately. I sat in my car, engine humming, watching strangers pass by like static. The sun was dipping low, shadows stretching across the dashboard. That's what our marriage felt like, a long, fading shadow. Still visible, but no longer alive. I went home like nothing had changed. She was on the couch with a glass of wine in one hand and TikTok in the other, TV on mute. She looked up and said, "You're back." That was it. Not "How was your day?" Not "Where were you?" Just "You're back." Like I was mail being delivered. I nodded, walked past her. That night, while she slept with her silk mask on and one leg thrown across the bed like a queen, I got to work. I pulled her old laptop from the office drawer, the one she forgot still had auto-login, email, socials, even her browsing history. She tried to delete some of it, but not well. What I found wasn't shocking anymore. Spa bookings, designer brands, influencer nonsense, high-ticket items. It was all confirmation, proof of what I already knew. And I kept clicking quietly, not out of curiosity, but to prepare, because she treated this marriage like a transaction, and now I was going to settle the account. Then I saw it, a post on an anonymous Reddit account with the username Monetize Muse. I clicked on it, expecting nothing. But the top post had over 1,400 upvotes. How I got my husband to pay me for intimacy, without him even knowing. I read every word. It wasn't vague. It was step by step. No names, but the details were too specific to ignore. She described how she exploited emotional openness to stir guilt, how she gave just enough affection to keep the attention and rewards flowing without him ever realizing it was a carefully crafted exchange. She had trained him over time to associate physical connection with material compensation, and people loved it. The comments were full of clapping hands, admiration, and women asking for tips or swapping strategies. She had a following, and she was proud of what she was doing. I didn't close the tab. Instead, I emailed it to myself, took screenshots, and made multiple backups. Then I checked her next post. It was worse. Considering going full sugar baby while married, advice? She called her husband a decent guy. Just dull. Said she missed feeling wanted. Mentioned testing the waters with a content subscription page using a fake name, and how someone she knew subscribed. She liked the danger of it. The account linked to other profiles. I followed the breadcrumbs. The Instagram was locked, But the profile photo gave away the mole on her cheek, the gold necklace, the familiar furniture in the background. Same lighting, same living room, same smirk. Just to confirm, I searched the name she used. Pure instinct. There was a premium message site, complete with provocative photos. Some were subtle, others weren't, and some were clearly taken right inside our home. She was using our house as her studio, our furniture as props, and I was paying a utility bill that lit the scenes. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just breathed, and I made 3 calls. First, Andrew, my lawyer. I asked him to draft a post-nuptial agreement. I told him I needed full asset protection. Make it look mutual, but lock everything down. She'd sign it. I'd frame it like it was for her benefit. Second, I reached out to HR, quietly redirected part of my paycheck into a private investment account she didn't know existed. Third, I called a cybersecurity buddy from college, told him I needed everything tied to a Reddit handle and the social account it linked to. Full archive, metadata, backups, hidden files, no questions. Then I walked back into our room and laid down beside her. She didn't stir. I looked at her, really looked. This woman who used to reach for my hand during movie trailers, whisper in my ear on long drives. The same woman who once cried when I surprised her with a weekend trip to see autumn leaves. Now she was selling pieces of herself to strangers just to feel powerful or desired, and she thought I didn't know, but I did. And from that moment on, I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her reckoning. 3 days later, I slid the post-nup draft across the kitchen island and took a sip of coffee. Casual as ever. She looked up from her phone. What's this? I smiled. A post-nup, just for clarity. Protects both of us if anything ever happens. Her eyebrows pulled together. Why now? I shrugged. Because I'm tired of second-guessing. You've been talking about imbalance lately, giving more than receiving. This just puts everything on equal footing. What's mine stays mine. What's yours stays yours. Fair, right? That word, equal, lit her up. She sat taller, like she just won something. Exactly what I expected. The agreement looked fair, but buried in the fine print. My retirement accounts, untouchable. My investments, shielded under a premarital umbrella. Any debt she took on from that day forward, hers alone. She flipped through the pages, barely reading. Her ego drowned out any suspicion. Should I have a lawyer look at this? She asked. I shook my head. Only if you don't trust me. She paused just for a second, but that pause told me everything. Then she smiled, grabbed a pen, and signed. Her signature curved across the page like a flourish of false confidence. That night, I moved every cent left in our joint accounts into the protective vault Andrew had set up. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't illegal. It was reclassified. She had just signed away her access. Next came cleanup. I wiped browser histories, cleared our shared devices, scrubbed all traces of Reddit and other social accounts from anything tied to our network. I'd already saved what mattered. Screenshots, posts, transaction records, metadata. Printed them, stored them in 3 separate places. Everything I needed, and she had no idea. Not yet, but she would, because I wasn't just her husband anymore. I was the lesson she never saw coming. I wasn't going to be the kind of husband who let the truth slip through his fingers. All that remained was the performance. I waited for the right night. Friday, the kind where she poured 2 glasses of wine, but drank them both, where her phone lit up with texts and her screen was filled with luxury handbags. I walked in casually, holding a manila folder in one hand, my phone in the other. Hey, I said, tossing the folder onto the coffee table. She glanced at it, brow raised. What's this? Proof, I said, sitting across from her, that I know everything. She froze. Page 1. A screenshot of her Reddit post, the one with over 1,400 upvotes. She blinked. That could be anyone. Page 2, metadata. Page 3, the IP addresses all matching. 4th page, payment logs from a site linked to her alternate account. Final page, a photo she took in our bathroom, the one with the distinctive bath mat her sister gifted her. Timestamp was clear in the mirror. Her face went pale. She reached for the folder. I stopped her hand, gently. You don't need to go through it. I know it by heart. Silence. Dense, echoing silence. I leaned in slightly. You taught strangers how to manipulate guilt, how to train people into giving affection for profit. You turned our marriage into a machine. You push a button and you get what you paid for. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. I kept going, steady and calm. I didn't stay because I was blind. I stayed to see how far you'd go when you thought I wasn't looking. Her lips finally moved. You went through my... No. I cut in. You made it public. You turned our life into content. I just gathered the receipts. I stood and placed a small envelope beside the folder. What's that? Her voice cracked. A copy of the post-nup you signed, and withdrawal slips from our shared accounts. I didn't wait for her reply. I went upstairs, packed a bag, and loaded it into my truck. No slamming doors. No shouting. I wasn't running. I was done. Done begging for respect in a house I paid for. She followed me to the front door. Where are you going? Her voice was small now, almost unfamiliar. I met her eyes. You started charging me for love. I'm just closing the tab. Then I walked out, not for the night, not for a breather, for good. I didn't glance back, not because I didn't care, but because I had given more than anyone with self-respect ever should. I gave Grace forgiveness, patience, and she spent it like it came with a discount code. I stayed with a friend while the legal part got handled. Andrew filed everything quickly. The post-nup made it clean. The evidence was solid. Certified. She didn't contest, not after that folder, not after realizing I wasn't bluffing. Her last message to me was short. Can we at least talk? I never replied. I didn't need to. My closure came the moment she decided affection had a price. 2 weeks after the divorce, she moved out. 3 months later, I sold the house and bought a modest place outside the city. Smaller, quieter, peaceful. Now when I speak, there's no echo, no invisible bill attached to my kindness. Just peace, just honesty. Sometimes I think about her, not with bitterness, not even with sorrow, just with understanding. She turned intimacy into accounting. She saw love as a transaction. She forgot that if you treat someone like a paying customer, they'll eventually walk out. I did, and I didn't look back. Still, there was another version of the story. One where the night she signed the post-nup, I tore it up, told her what I knew, asked her to change. Pleaded for truth, for the woman I once thought I loved. Maybe she would have cried, said all the right words. We might have tried again, therapy, rules, resets. But deep down, every touch would have felt purchased. Every kiss, a bargaining chip. Every I love you would have needed a footnote. And eventually, I have woken up one day lying beside her, so worn thin not from noise, but from silence. I've imagined another version, too. The night I overheard her with that man, I would have walked in, sat them both down, laid the folder on the table, let her speak. Let her explain everything in her own words, if only to hear the depth of her lies. Maybe she would have confessed, maybe laughed or cried. Not because she was sorry, but because she realized she lost the audience she thought would never leave. Then I would have stood, taken off my ring, and dropped it into her wine glass, let it sink. No yelling, just that sound, and then silence. But that's not how it happened. The real ending was cleaner. I left without offering another second of my voice. She thought love could be charged by the ounce. I reminded her, love isn't priced, but it can be lost.